Welcome to Red Ice Creations Radio. This is Henrik Palmgren and we are broadcasting from the west coast of Sweden. Nice to have you with us. Thank you for tuning in to the program. We are here on Sundays and Thursdays, but we are accessible 24/7 through our radio archive at redicecreations.com. There you'll also find news, forums, newsletter and a member section with the film and our entire radio archive. Our guest today is Steve Willner. He is a video artist, I guess you could say, and I suspect that a few of you out there have stumbled across some of Steve's work before. I've had a few of his videos linked up on Red Ice and in our forum as well. And I first heard about Steve Willner via Jake Cutsey, who has been on this program a few times before, a good friend. And Steve is very talented and he covers a lot of interesting subjects in his videos. Everything from mythology to symbolism, alchemy, to the occult, spirituality and much, much more. So I'm looking forward to talking with Steve here today, find out a bit more about him, his videos, how he works in general and some of the topics that he covers. I also want to mention here right away that you can find him over at his YouTube channel. Basically, you can type up youtube.com/soundlessdawn and that will get you to his YouTube channel. But he also has a blog, and the address is labyrinth.of-the-psychonaut.blogspot.com, and we'll have those linked up from our website so people can find his websites very easily from there. So it's a pleasure to welcome Steve Willner to the program. Hi, good to have you on the program. Thank you for coming on, Steve.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Henrik. That was great.
Thank you. I'd love to talk about your videos here today and explore some of the many topics that you address in your movies, how you work, even the music, and so forth. But before we do anything else, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your background. When did you start making these videos?
Oh, well, this is kind of a recent thing that I started doing about 4 months ago. The base establishment was the 9/11 event for me, really. It was sort of my awakening point. I'd always really been into, the occult and philosophy of the unexplained. But when that happened, I sensed it was like a glitch in the overall composition of the universe. I really felt that there was something wrong, a glitch in the matrix, something of those terms. Basically, when that happened, I knew there was some kind of really grand scheme organization involved with the event itself, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. Sort of like when Neo saw the black cat pass by him, and he said, "Oh, this is a deja vu. I feel like something's not right here." And then the response from Trinity was basically, "This is when the elites change something. This is when they go into the matrix and they alter something that's just not correct." And I knew that the 9/11 event had that symbolism within it, but it wasn't clear to me really until I saw Jay Kotzey's videos over at the Brave New World Order, that I really started to put some of these pieces together and realized that it wasn't all about occultic themes. It really had to do with tying together collective consciousness and the symbol system that exists, a very ancient symbol system that sort of provides life throughout the cosmos, and it has to do with piecing those together via the collective consciousness and also pop culture, media, whether it be music, multiple types of movies, music videos, even any form of media. It's like an expression of, or an inspiration, or a muse for human beings to create these things, and they all have a kind of symbol system that begins to really appear to have an intelligently guided hand. And like I said, the 9/11 event was the trigger point for me to really leap into this full head.
Like so many of us, it seems, 9/11 seems to be kind of a big point in that sense. It's almost like it's the spawning for so many people to going into these kind of subjects, and it makes you wonder if there was some kind of planned event behind it all. Meaning that this was more not a fluke accident by terrorists from Middle East basically, but this was something much more than this, much more planned. You wonder what the heck the idea is, because it seems to be counteractive to what they are trying to achieve with it, right?
I think that's really what it was for me. It was sort of like the world of fiction or the world of dreams kind of coinciding with reality in a way that just didn't really add up at all. And I watched Jake's video, the Higher Intelligence in the Saturn Hexagon, and that just actually I was turned on to his videos by a friend of mine, Tyler, and they were really kind of taking it as a joke. They were watching Jake's videos and sort of laughing about it, and they knew I was into conspiracy theory and a lot of these things that I was very interested in. So they led me onto his site, and I watched it, and I realized the genius behind it. I realized that there were just so many elaborate patterns involved that just could not, bear down to coincidence. There is no spoon, there is no coincidence.
That's
and
right.
I think the greatest thing, was the comparison to the Giza pyramids and how the 9/11 event was laid out almost like an electrical plug. You have the two towers as being the long prongs and the Building 7, the shorter prong.
Mm-hmm.
And then what really, took it over the top for me was sort of the 2001 Space Odyssey, human enlightenment and the magic mushroom symbolism involved. Because the Millennium Hilton building that stands, completely flush and adjacent with the Ground Zero event was designed purposely to be like the 2001 Black Monolith. And I just found that so mind-blowing that could be a coincidence, that whole event was a reawakening of a Stargate, or someone was telling us that this was either our or their way of launching human beings into the next stage of human evolution.
Indeed.
And at least symbolically, it's tangible. And these are not things that we are making up or dreaming about. This is all tangible. These things are laid out purposely to represent these symbols and to represent the Stargate. And that's what the pyramids were intended for as well. So it just really boggles the mind.
Indeed, it does, exactly. And again, 2001, going back to Stanley Kubrick's, masterpiece, the movie, and it feels like it is about a birth of a new consciousness almost. And if you think about when the true millennium actually begin, going over from 2000 over to 2001, that is basically, if you the gestation period, 9 months after, into the new millennium. Some very interesting things start to occur when you think about this event. So I agree with you. This seems to be some, higher form of either communication or signal to, a birth of a new consciousness. Would you agree on that?
Yes, I would. But whose birth? Into what? Into what consciousness? Who are these alleged masters making these decisions for us? And why do we have to endure almost tragedies to evolve? Isn't it within all of us to not need such a grand shove in that direction in order to achieve a higher state of consciousness? It almost seems like a cruel division on a way of evolving your consciousness. If you can do it by taking psychedelic drugs or meditation or simply meditating, and connecting with your fellow human beings, it's not necessary for us to, murder thousands of people in the process, which is why it's so staggering to me,
Yeah, it is.
And there's a lot of also interesting things about 2001. It seems never ending with that movie in particular, and the whole Stanley Kubrick thing. And the number 666 comes up several times in the film. I think the monoliths in the movie appear for 666 seconds, the time before the first appearance and the final disappearance of each of the four monoliths. And the four together it adds up to 666. And of course, Stanley Kubrick was murdered or died apparently 666 days before the year 2001. So all of those things are just, they're coincidences, yes, and you do find patterns in any system if you look hard enough. But the idea is if these patterns have meaning, if they have purpose, if you can derive things from them, and apparently you can in these situations, they seem to add up to a larger grand scale event, and it just really blows me away sometimes how far the rabbit hole goes, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely, I totally agree. I want to talk a little bit more about your background here. I think you added your first video back in June this year. Is that right?
Yeah. Like I said, I'd only been doing this for about 3 or 4 months. Basically, when I saw Jake's videos, I figured out a way to incorporate synchromysticism, which was very new to me at the time, with hollow Earth research, which I'd been doing for quite some time. I was fascinated with that well before I got into making these videos. I'm a big fan of Bruce Agnew from, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's trying to put together the first ever hollow Earth research vehicle. He's going to take pedestrians on a ship to the North Pole
region.
Yeah,
I've heard of him. Yeah, sure.
So basically, I sent him my resume, and I got in contact with him. I applied for a position on the boat that they're going on. It's not a boat. It's a nuclear icebreaker ship, quite a powerful ship. I don't know. It just seemed like intuitively for me, the creation or Eden. It sort of wells up images of being located at the center of all things, like the center of the earth, the center of time, the center of the universe, the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. It seems like everything has that kind of motif about it. The sperm and the egg, the child in the womb. Even Pythagoras. I mean, his story with the apple seeds that I think you were talking about on a recent show.
Oh yeah.
How they're in the pentagram formation at the core of the apple. That's just fascinating that, there's other foundations such as the Meru Foundation who basically study the tertiary composition of the Torah, and that all the words and meanings themselves are very much like the apple, as basically the base of their context holds the key to creating a new meaning or breathing new life into the symbol systems.
Mm-hmm.
Much like, the seeds of an apple hold the ingredients to replicate itself. So you have the birthplace of all things at the center of the apple that could basically replicate an apple tree and bear more fruit, and it's just a never-ending loop or cycle. So would it be such a far stretch to the imagination for the Earth to be teeming with life at its core, Wouldn't this correlate to, illuminate certain Atlantean myths or Atlantean themes? The bullseyes or the Stargate motifs that you see, aesthetically in all forms of conveyance.
Mm.
Even the symbol, the symbol for the UN, it has 33 divisions on it that sort of look like they're dividing underground chambers of the Earth into sections.
That's right.
It's very peculiar that there's so many symbols like this. And I was when I viewed Jake's work, and I realized that you could see these things in movies and cartoons. And I was remembering that in my childhood I used to watch Tiny Toon Adventures. And at the beginning of the cartoon show, there would always be this white rabbit that popped up right in the middle of this kind of Atlantean bullseye. And I was like, well, there's the white rabbit, there's the rabbit hole. And then, these are all symbols of sort of the eccentric circles of the Stargate symbolism, and also possibly Hollow Earth, and also possibly, Atlantean themes, and the checkerboard, and the Masonic symbolism that we'll go into later, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
It also explains Hitler's fascination for exploring Antarctica, identifying with the black sun, which would be, if it did exist, it would be a much lower radiation version of the sun that we have in our solar system. But it would also provide for, much longer lifespans and sort of giganticism. If people or beings actually did reside there, that would sort of maybe even be a background for the Methuselah story that I think you talked about in your longevity, which was great, by the way. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, exactly. Definitely going back again to the biblical stories of, even giants, or as you say, living longer, That was interesting. You mentioned about going on that that trip. How are things going with that, by the way? And how did you said that you applied or just sent in your resume? What's happening there?
Yes. Basically, Bruce put something on his website that he already has established scientists and sort of UFO researchers and professional video technicians that are already going on the trip with him. But there are room for certain individuals that he says to raise the consciousness of the ship so as to, if there were beings in Hollow Earth or there are UFOs at the polar regions, it could aid in basically raising the consciousness of the ship to sort of make first contact with these beings. So he basically put on his site to send him a resume, a letter of, why you think that you would aid in this consciousness elevation on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Also just send a video of, a personal interview video with you, talking about why you think you qualify for the position.
Mm.
Honestly, he's a little bit, he doesn't always answer back emails. I think he's a very busy guy.
Mm.
But I know that he's still planning the trip. He had Steve Fawcett, who was originally going to hold the first expedition, tragically died. So Bruce has been chosen to basically take over his position. And I think when it gets a little bit closer to the end of the year, I'm going to try to write him a detailed letter and find out what's